Thought that was funny, did you? Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny? Did you develop some sort of hatred for Miss Reed?
Objection.
At any point in your investigation?
I'll allow it.
I've seen the amazing feedback you guys had on our courtroom cases, so I decided to make a longer version compiling the 2 parts of the Trooper Proctor cross-examination. Be sure to stick till the end because ATF agent Brian Higgins' confessions turn him red.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's
Cops usually slack off on their job, but in today's case, we'll be going over some scummy cops who tried to pin a murder on an innocent woman and got absolutely owned by the defense's lawyer. So for a little context, Karen Reed and her husband, Officer O'Keefe, had an argument one day. She later dropped him off at his friend's house and went home. When she realized O'Keefe was late, she went out to find him and soon enough found his lifeless body at a scene which looked like a hit and run. Strangely enough, O'Keefe's police department tried to pin the case on her, and that's what Karen's lawyer was about to show us by questioning the lead investigator, Officer Proctor.
You responded at 10:53 p.m., John O'Keefe. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you were willing to tell, just a few hours into an investigation of the death of a Boston police officer, you were willing to tell a bunch of high school buddies details about the investigation, including the name of the victim, correct?
At this point, it was 16 hours later, sir.
In this text exchange at 10:56 p.m., your buddy Bird writes, "I'm sure the owners of the house will receive some shit," correct?
Correct.
How did you take that to mean? Did you take that to mean that he could get in trouble?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what my friend was getting at.
Well, you had some idea.
Yeah, maybe.
That the owners of the house isn't going to get any shit for this, right?
That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, you interpreted it like he's not going to get in any trouble, he's not going to be a suspect, correct?
Correct.
And he's not going to be implicated in any way. Is that right?
Correct.
And your answer was one word, correct?
Yes.
What was that word?
Nope.
And then you followed that up with an explanation as to why you said no, didn't you?
That wasn't the explanation why I said nope. I simply said homeowner was a Boston cop too, meaning Mr. O'Keefe was a Boston cop, the homeowner was a Boston cop as well.
The question that preceded your answer, nope, the fact of the matter is you hadn't been to the crime scene by the time you wrote this text, correct?
Correct.
You hadn't been inside the home, correct?
No.
You had you had questioned a grand total of 3 percipient witnesses at this point, correct?
Yes.
And 2 of the 3 were named McCabe, right?
Correct.
And 1 of the 3 was named Albert, correct?
Yes.
And it's against that backdrop that you wrote, nope, the homeowner's not going to get any shit because he's a cop, right?
That's not what I meant by that.
The lead investigator was just willy-nilly discussing a murder case with his high school buddies. What a joke. And we can clearly see his professional courtesy when it came to the homeowner BPD cop. This cross-examination was about to get really intense.
And you write back, quote, "She waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital," right?
Correct.
You used the phrase waffled about a Boston police officer who had fallen in the snow and died in someone's yard. And you decided to use the word waffled him, correct?
Objection.
So sustained. Ask it differently, Mr. Jackson.
And you responded, he was banged up. Is that right?
Yes.
Then a person with the phone number 0095 wrote, "I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up?" Do you see that?
I do.
And you wrote, "Nope." Is that right?
Correct.
Yet again, this is before 11 o'clock at night on January 29th, 2022, some 16 hours into your investigation. Is that right?
Yes.
So before you ever went to the crime scene, before you ever went into the house, only having interviewed 3 folks, You had this case nice and wrapped up, didn't you?
He said all that without visiting the crime scene. This is exactly how corrupt officers botch entire investigations and ruin innocent people's lives. Not to mention how disrespectfully he addressed his fallen comrade.
Then 5051 changes gears and he writes, she hot at least, correct?
Yes.
And what was your response to that?
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt.
From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job cunt. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
16 hours into this investigation.
Yes.
Into your objective and unbiased, thorough investigation, correct?
Correct.
But sir, you didn't have all accounts, did you? From all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. That was your decision 16 hours into the investigation, correct?
Yes.
And the other decision that you made and the other determination you came to was my client, Karen Reed, was a whack job cunt, right?
Yes.
What else did you say in response to, she's hot at least? Or she hot at least, question mark?
So following that text, I responded, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No.
No ass. Now you're talking about her body, her physique, correct?
Yes.
You think that's appropriate?
Absolutely not.
Then Bird chimes in with a little comedy. Not newsworthy then, correct?
Correct.
In other words, well, she didn't have an ass. Nothing to see here, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
So Mr. Lead Investigator here was sexing a dead officer's wife just 16 hours into the investigation. And not only that, he thought that she was a crazy woman. What a scumbag cop.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's fucked. That's what you were saying.
Objection.
All right, so that's sustained. You can, the content's fine. You have to ask it differently.
17 hours into this investigation, Trooper Proctor, you made the decision that you were going to put it on Miss Reed, didn't you? Put the case on Miss Reed. She was going to catch the case, correct?
No, absolutely not.
What did you mean then when you said she's fucked?
After the day's investigation with multiple troopers conducting multiple tasks, and a debriefing at Canton PD amongst detectives in my office who went through the overwhelming amount of evidence against Miss Reed that she struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. That's what I meant by that comment.
What you meant by that comment, Trooper Proctor,
That's all BS, and we know it. These tyrants just wanted to pin a murder on an innocent woman and then laugh at her. But these pigs continue to discuss Mrs. Reed even further.
and then Bird decides to chime in, good, no ass, right?
Yes, that's what he wrote.
And how did you respond to Bird saying, good?
I laughed.
Thought that was funny, did you? Trooper Proctor? Thought that was funny?
It was unprofessional of me. That's something I shouldn't have done.
Well, I think we all know it was unprofessional. It was a lot of things. I'm asking you, did you think it was funny?
No, according to my response at the time, apparently.
Then you sent a picture, just to add to it, to pile on, of Miss Reed being arrested, correct?
I don't...
The date is now February 2nd, 2022. And a person by the name of Doc writes, is that chick a smoke? Correct?
Correct.
Who's the chick?
Miss Reed.
And you write E-H, right?
Yes.
And then you write nutbag, as Chief would say, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what the definition of integrity is?
Doing the right thing when no one's looking.
It means the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you believe that integrity means being honest and having strong moral principles?
I believe that's part of it as well.
Do you stand by that testimony that you were showing strong moral principles in this investigation, sir?
In the investigation part, absolutely. Through these text messages, absolutely not. They were juvenile and regrettable.
When you say they're juvenile and regrettable, it sounds like you're almost apologizing to the jury for your conduct. Is that what you're doing?
For those texts,
Objection.
Sustained.
Trooper Proctor, have you ever apologized to Miss Reed?
Objection.
Sustained.
How can a cop like this ever lead an unbiased investigation? His investigation and his integrity as a cop both got exposed that day. Stay with us because the next plot twist that's going to enter the story is going to shock you.
That you were going to make sure that the girl, I think that's what you called her, the girl, was going to have serious charges brought against her 17 hours into your investigation. You didn't have any evidence whatsoever that there was an argument inside the vehicle, did you?
to go towards intent, no. But as far as the physical evidence goes, we had compelling evidence indicating Miss Reed struck Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle.
So you just did
Okay,
this.
Mr. Jackson, I just have to keep your voice up, Trooper Proctor, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
You just did this piecemeal. So when you decided that the girl, Miss Reed, was going to get serious charges against her, didn't have any indication of any intent, you just decided, oh, okay, I'm just going to go with the physical evidence today. I'll figure out intent later. I'll figure out motive later. Right?
Yes.
We get to learn of a potential lover of Mrs. Reed and how the lead investigator just believed whatever evidence he brought him, without investigating himself.
You keep adding other people into the interviews. I'm asking what you did, not what you and somebody else did. Did you personally, Brian Higgins?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, I did.
He's a fellow law enforcement officer, and you knew that, right?
Yes.
He was a colleague of yours, correct?
He worked in a different agency, yes.
You waited until February 10th to conduct a pre-scheduled interview with Mr. Higgins, didn't you?
Yes.
And you interviewed him in the presence of his attorney, correct?
Correct.
He told you that he was engaged in a flirtatious relationship with Miss Reed.
He did.
As a matter of fact, he told you that he was engaged in a flirtatious relationship with Miss Reed over text messages, but on at least one occasion that resulted in a kiss, correct?
Yes.
And then he also told you that he had taken the liberty to extract certain conversations from his own cell phone, right?
Correct.
And he brought you a hard copy of those text messages, right?
He did.
And you knew that those text messages were messages that he curated to give to you, right?
Yes.
He's the one that made the determination of what was important, what was not important to give to you, his interviewer, right?
Objection.
No, absolutely not.
Well, you knew he had this flirtatious relationship with Karen Reed, is that right?
Yes.
You became aware that he ignored, you saw the text messages, you became aware that Karen Reed actually ignored text messages from Mr. Higgins while at the Waterfall Bar and Grill with John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
And you're aware that at 12:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sent a text message to John O'Keefe coaxing him to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
I'll see you at sidebar on this.
Officer Proctor was so biased in his investigation that he didn't even for a second consider that Mr. Higgins might have been the prime suspect who wanted the only thorn between his and Mrs. Reed's supposed relationship out.
At 2:20 a.m., Brian Higgins sent a text message to John O'Keefe prompting him to go to 34 Fairview, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that one. Go ahead.
I don't recall that text.
Do you recall a text from Brian Higgins to John O'Keefe after they left Waterfall? Where are you at?
I don't recall that one either.
You also recognized that Brian Higgins certainly had the means to commit the crime, correct?
No, I don't.
He's a big guy, certainly had the physical ability to get into a physical altercation with John O'Keefe, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Just because he's a big guy doesn't mean doesn't have the means or the motive to hurt Mr. O'Keefe.
I wouldn't ask
They
you
were
about
friends.
motive. I wasn't asking about motive. I'm asking about means. Could he do it? Could he throw a punch? Knock a guy down, knock a guy out?
I can't speak to his fighting ability, sir.
Well, you've met him, right?
That one interview, yes.
Yeah, he's huge. Do you agree?
Objection.
Sustained.
He's a big dude, right?
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Bigger than me, right?
Yeah.
Bigger than you.
Yep.
You knew that he was former military
I did, yes.
and is a trained ATF agent, federal agent, right?
Yes.
And you were in possession of video surveillance from the Waterfall Bar and Grill, correct?
Yes.
And literally in the minutes before John O'Keefe's death, you saw video surveillance of Brian Higgins and Brian Albert taking fighting stances with one another, correct?
I interpreted that as horsing around.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it, Trooper Proctor. I asked you if you saw it.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you see it or not?
I did.
And what you saw was these guys taking fighting stances, correct?
Objection.
Is that what you saw?
Playful fighting stances.
But you waited until February 10th to interview him, correct?
Yes.
And you decided not to image his phone, is that right?
Correct.
You didn't ask for consent to search his phone or to take his phone, correct?
No.
You didn't seek a search warrant to get his phone, is that right?
No, sir.
Did you know that on January 29th at 2:22 a.m., there was a call between him and Brian Albert?
The lead investigator didn't care to investigate the romance between a former military bear-looking fella who might have killed for love. I mean, just look at the size of this guy. He had all the physical means to do it. That's all we can cover in today's video. If you are interested in part 2, comment down below, because you won't believe the kind of disgusting things this lead investigator says next.
You responded to a text message from your sister, correct? And your response was, hopefully she kills herself, correct?
Yes.
Who's she?
The defendant.
Miss Reed?
Correct.
You literally said that you hoped that Karen Reed, the subject of your investigation, the woman sitting to my left, about 7 feet from me, that she would just die, correct?
The figure of speech.
You wanted her to, the figure of speech is you wanted her to kill herself,
No.
right?
No, it's not.
Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed, in your investigation, had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Objection.
My question is, you seem to have a problem admitting that you had a romantic interest in my client. Is there a reason for that?
I was attracted to her.
Right. Physically attracted.
I thought she was an attractive woman.
Romantically attracted.
I'm not going to go there. No, I don't agree with that.
Of course you're not going to go there because that would put you in a very awkward position, wouldn't it, sir?
Objection.
Not at all.
So the objection sustained is to the form. You can ask it differently, and that answer will be stricken now.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I?
Yes.
You were sexually attracted to her.
I was physically attracted to her, yes.
Sexually attracted to her was my question.
Well, I think in the text I said, you're hot.
Okay. So my question again, Mr. Higgins, you seem to not want to answer my question. My question is, were you or were you not sexually attracted to my client?
Yes.
So make sure you stick to the very end. During this proceeding, Proctor was questioned about missing evidence, specifically regarding a Ring doorbell footage.
You indicated that you reviewed several of the videos on his Ring app on his cell phone. Is that right?
Yes.
So you obviously had not only possession of his cell phone, you had possession of his login account information to get into the app on his cell phone. Is that right?
I don't believe we had the password. We had his email account associated with the Ring.
Which means
app.
some
So
way
you-
or another, you could get access to the Ring videos
Correct.
and watch those Ring videos on his app on the phone.
Yes.
Which means you had full access to the app. You could keep videos, you could save for later, you could delete videos, you could do anything you wanted to within that app, correct?
Yes, those are the capabilities within that app.
Trooper Proctor, did you delete any of the Ring videos ever from John O'Keefe's phone?
Absolutely not.
Did you delete a video of Miss Reed arriving to One Meadows at approximately 12:41 a.m. on January 29th, 2022?
Absolutely not.
You will agree, Trooper Proctor, that the video of Miss Reed returning home from 34 Fairview at approximately 12:41 a.m. is not there.
Correct.
As the case officer, you're aware that Trooper DeChico also reviewed some or all of those videos, correct?
Yes,
And he did that at your request.
correct.
This is a very serious allegation by the attorney. Tampering with evidence is a serious crime, and in some cases, the prison sentence for it can be up to 20 years.
He took notes of his review of those videos, correct?
Yes,
And then he provided those notes to you so that you could then memorialize those notes and your notes in a broader report that you then drafted in November of 2022, correct?
from memory serves me, the report I wrote regarding the ring camera was based off my observations of the videos that I had watched.
So basically, two different officers reviewed the Ring doorbell footage, and this other officer also left notes. At this point, Proctor was getting visibly anxious.
So when you reviewed his notes, did you see that they were on some sticky pads? You remember that?
That sounds about right.
Do you recall exactly, as you sit here, exactly what was on one or more of those sticky pads that you reviewed from Trooper DeChico?
I don't know.
You reviewed this previously before you wrote your report, correct?
Yes,
All right. And you note that at 0041, which is a time relative to what DeChico was looking at on the Ring video, he indicated taillights from driveway, parentheses, I think she arrived home, in parentheses, correct?
correct.
0041 is what? What's that in reference to?
Just after midnight, the approximate time where Miss Reed will be returning from Fairview Road.
Sometime between when Trooper DeChico wrote his notes and when you wrote your report, that video footage vanished, correct?
There's also no date on Trooper DeChico's notes. We have many dates from Ring video, so I don't know if he's referencing a different date.
Well, you're aware that the video footage from 12:41 a.m. is gone, correct?
Yes, it's something I've tried to find through Ring for months, as well as the video when Miss Roberts, Miss McCabe, Miss Reed arrived back at John's and they're looking at the broken taillight. That video is gone as well.
So, at some point, while this footage was in Massachusetts State Police custody and being reviewed by Trooper DeChico, that video existed, didn't it?
Objection.
The objection is sustained. Mr. Jackson, don't waive that again, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
These videos magically vanished from O'Keefe's Ring doorbell app while his phone was in police custody, and Proctor has no explanation for it. Now we move on to this man's more sadistic side.
Did you develop some sort of hatred for Miss Reed at
Objection.
any point in your investigation?
I'll allow it.
Again, we follow the facts and the evidence which showed Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle. And yes, at times I got emotional because of that, and I said some stuff, texted some things I shouldn't have, but it was based off the evidence.
As a matter of fact, you did express your feelings about Miss Reed in yet another text message that we haven't gone over here today. Is that right? On February 4th, 2022? Might as well turn to tab 10.
Tab 10?
It's either the bait stamp or the...
This is your triple F as in Foxtrot. You literally said that you hope that Karen Reed, the subject of your investigation, the woman sitting to my left, about 7 feet from me, that she would just die, correct?
The figure of speech.
You wanted her to, the figure of speech is you wanted her to kill herself,
No.
right?
No, it's not.
Trooper Proctor, Karen Reed, in your investigation, had quickly become a very serious problem for you, hadn't she?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you believe that Karen Reed was a problem or an issue for your investigation?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, absolutely not.
In your words, quote, all the powers that be want answers ASAP. That's what you texted on January 29th, right?
Yes.
That put a lot of pressure on you, didn't it, Trooper Proctor?
There's a lot of pressure in every case, sir.
This case involves a Boston cop whose family you are actually connected to, correct?
Loosely.
Chris Allen, loosely.
Yes.
Julie Allen, loosely.
Yes.
Colin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Kevin Albert, loosely.
Yes.
Loose enough to leave his badge and his gun in your cruiser after a night of drinking, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You agreed in your group chat that you needed to, quote, make this cut and dry because another cop was involved. Those are your words, right?
Objection.
Where is this?
This was referred to in earlier text messages, group chats this morning.
So is that right? Did you say that, sir?
I did text that. I don't know if it's in the exact context. But yes, those were my words.
Chat.
Yes, that was in the group chat.
He said all that about Karen Reed and then says that his report was unbiased? He literally wanted a woman out of the picture because his friends were getting involved. And this guy was allowed to be the lead investigator? No wonder people hate the police. And this lawyer was about to get even more aggressive.
You believed, Trooper Proctor, that your life would be much easier if Karen Reed was just dead, didn't you?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No. Like I had said, it was a figure of speech. My emotions got the best of me based on, the fact that Miss Reed hit Mr. O'Keefe with her vehicle and left him to die on the side of the road. So my emotions got the best of me with that figure of speech.
Well, let's talk about your figures of speech. During the course of your investigation, your figures of speech include the following. She's a bitch.
Objection.
Is that right?
Yes.
A whack job, correct?
Yes.
A retard, right?
Yes.
Her balloon knot leaks, right?
Yes.
No ass, correct?
Yes.
She's fucked, according to you, right?
Yes.
Ass leaker. That was a word you used, a figure of speech, right?
Correct.
A girl who shits herself, right?
Correct.
And then fuck her, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree, Trooper Proctor, that you have dehumanized Karen Reed during the course of your investigation with comments and words like this?
Objection.
I'll give you this one, Mr. Jackson.
Would you agree with that?
I would say based off that language, yes.
And you admitted, in your own words, that the cop homeowner wasn't going to, quote, catch any shit, right?
Correct.
Shame on him. I think this case is very cut and dry. Trooper Proctor had an obvious bias, and his actions proved that his investigation was targeted. The end result of the trial is a case for another day. But another character that we also discussed before is worth mentioning, ATF agent Brian Higgins. His court proceeding was filled with drama because his relationship with Karen Reed was on display.
My question is, you seem to have a problem admitting that you had a romantic interest in my client. Is there a reason for that?
I was attracted to her.
Right. Physically attracted.
I thought she was an attractive woman.
Romantically attracted.
I'm not going to go there. No, I don't agree with that.
Of course you're not going to go there because that would put you in a very awkward position, wouldn't it, sir?
Objection.
Not at all.
So the objection sustained is to the form. You can ask it differently, and that answer will be stricken now.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. May I?
Yes.
You were sexually attracted to her.
I was physically attracted to her, yes.
Attracted to her was my question.
Well, I think in the text I said you're hot.
Okay. So my question again, Mr. Higgins, you seem to not want to answer my question. My question is, were you or were you not sexually attracted to my client?
Yes.
In an effort to try to prompt the conversation to continue, did you not?
I reached out to her, but I wouldn't say that's what it was about.
Well, you texted her stranger, didn't you? Not once, but twice.
I believe so.
Take a look, if you don't mind, at, this is a page from what you've just seen.
So he needs the.
I'm sorry. I was thinking that was right in front of you. May I approach?
Please.
Thank you. Have just a second. Easy to find.
should just stay with Mr. Higgins.
Thank you. That's easy to find. It's literally the last page. Report permission, may I publish?
Yes.
Does that look like a fair representation of what you're looking at, the last page of that series of texts?
Yes.
At the very top, did you read what you write in the blue bubbles starting at the top?
Haha, stranger, stranger.
And then what was the response from Miss Reed?
Hey, I was at the Hilly all weekend.
And what did you respond at that point?
I have not heard from you.
And by the way, if you look at the next date down, what's the date underneath I have not heard from you?
The 23rd.
So this would have preceded the 23rd, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then on the 23rd, and by the way, after you texted, I have not heard from you, she did not respond, correct?
She did not respond.
Then on the 23rd, she did respond with phone works, correct?
In the arrows, like both ways.
Right.
Yep.
And then what did you text after that?
I just said, thought you were all set.
And how did she respond?
She said, we're talking? No.
That's all I have for that.
Okay.
Bring the lights back up. So clearly with that last text, her response was, in response to you saying, thought we were all set, she said, with talking, no. Correct?
Yep. Yes.
Did that indicate to you that with flirting, yes, we're all done?
No, I didn't read anything into it.
Okay. But you did read where she said, with talking, no, correct?
Yes.
And then you responded, how?
I said, are you sure?
Did she respond?
No.
Now, you had discussed your flirtations, if I can use that word, that you had with Miss Reed with your friends, at least some of them, correct?
I don't recall that, no.
Do you recall that you openly shared the details of your interest in Miss Reed with your work supervisor at the DOJ?
Well, that was after I shared what happened, that she kissed me. Yes, I did share that with her.
And that was with...
That was the first time.
That was with a person by the name of Kate Dowd, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was before January 29th.
Yes.
And that's because your interest in Karen Reed, whether you call it romantic or sexual or whatever, your interest was something that was at least occupying your mind at that point, correct?
No.
It was occupying your mind enough to share it with your boss.
No, what I shared with my boss was the fact that she kissed me. That was it.
The overall story that Reed's attorney argued is that Reed did not in fact hit her boyfriend and offed him. Someone present at Brian Albert's party might have done that, and then tried to pin the case on her, as we saw how the lead investigator was doing. The main culprit who might have the most probable motive is Brian Higgins.
Did you discuss your flirtatious relationship with Karen Reed with Brian Albert at any point?
No.
Never.
No.
So you were on a 4-hour drive in a snowstorm back from New York with Mr. Albert, and your interest in Karen Reed never came up,
No.
even though he's a good friend.
Yes, just something I wouldn't talk about.
You'd had several drinks before you even got to the waterfall, right?
I think it was 3 to 4.
Did you drink additionally at the waterfall?
I did, yes.
Did you drink whiskey or beer or what?
Whiskey.
Okay. How many do you think you had?
I couldn't put a number on it. At least a couple.
And ultimately, you left from there in your personal vehicle and drove over to, that's the Jeep, drove
The Jeep,
over to
yes.
the waterfall, correct?
I drove over to the waterfall.
I'm sorry.
I was at the waterfall.
Left the waterfall, drove over to 34 Fairview.
I did, yes.
When John walked in to the waterfall, were you already there?
Yes.
He greeted you, you indicated, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Karen walked in with him.
Yes.
But she did not greet you, did she?
I think they kind of went like that in different directions.
Right.
Yes.
Did she greet you?
No.
Right. So she walked over toward the corner of the bar, and John came over and greeted you, and then walked over and joined her, correct?
Yes.
Karen didn't stop what she was doing when she was over in the corner of the bar and come over and say hi to you?
I didn't have any interaction with her that night, no.
So safe to say that throughout that evening, once she was sidled up next to John O'Keefe or the friends that she was with, she never turned back around and came over and even acknowledged you, correct?
That's correct.
So she basically ignored you the entire evening.
That's not how I interpret it, no.
I didn't ask you how you interpreted it. I asked you what she did. Did she ignore you or did she pay attention to you?
Objection.
You can go ahead and answer that. Did she ignore you?
No.
So she paid attention to you. Came over and said hello, shook your hand, gave you a hug.
Well, just because somebody didn't come over doesn't mean they ignored you.
Did she do those 3 things?
Hug, what was the other
Did she
thing?
say hello, shake your hand, give you a hug?
No, she did not.
No, she didn't do any of those things, did she?
No.
It was like you didn't even exist.
I think that's dramatic. No, I don't look at it that way.
Did she ignore you or not?
No, she did not ignore me.
So what did she do to not ignore you?
She was
What's her
work.
interaction with you?
Can I answer now?
Sure.
In my opinion, she was working the room, talking to people, saying hello, catching up.
Right. The one person she didn't come over to talk to and say hello to and catch up with is you.
Well, I don't know that I was the only person, but I was one of the people that she didn't say hello to, yes.
Treated you sort of like a stranger.
I don't feel that way, no.
She actually positioned herself away from you at the other end of the table on the opposite side in the corner. Isn't that right?
I don't know where she was all night, no.
Did
I
that
don't know.
upset you that she ignored you or didn't pay attention to you?
I did not feel ignored and didn't upset me at all.
But it bothered you enough to send her a text, didn't it?
No, it was a flirtatious text. It was just, that was it.
It bothered you enough to send her a text that said, with 6 M's behind it,
Okay.
and, well, correct?
Well, it wasn't like that. It was, well, that's it.
Ignoring the fact that Higgins just confessed to drunk driving, Reed did ignore him while she was with her boyfriend, so much so that he had to send desperate text messages to her. Would that have made Higgins angry enough to harm the only man standing between him and Reed?
When you testified at the prior hearing, you were asked, so you saw someone else come? Question. Answer, somebody else. Yes. End quote. That's what you testified to under oath, wasn't it? You saw someone else come? Answer, somebody else. Yes. Correct?
Yes, but I also said that I wasn't paying
Mr.
attention.
Higgins, I realize that you want to explain your answer. I've asked you a very simple question. Was that your testimony in front of another proceeding?
Yes, it was.
At another proceeding, which you were under oath?
Yes, it was.
Okay. You also said that you only remember seeing that person come in briefly, and it looked like he was having a conversation with the 2 girls, briefly, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how long was the person in there roughly, and you said it was quick. Less than a couple of minutes. I mean, it was quick, correct?
Yes.
And then you were asked what he looked like, and you said, I feel like they were a little bit taller. They had dark hair, correct?
Yes.
So you testified that a tall, dark-haired male came into the house, at least briefly, in your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Approximately when in the timeline of events did that unidentified male enter the residence?
I don't know the time frame. It would have been while I was there.
When you gave your statement to the Massachusetts State Police, you didn't tell them about a tall, dark-haired male coming into the residence at 34 Fairview, did you, on February 3rd?
I don't recall.
You were specifically asked by ADA Lally when you testified before the state court grand jury on April 28th, 2022, who else was present, correct?
Yes.
And you never mentioned a tall, dark-haired male coming into the house, did you?
No.
However, on June 1st, 2023, at this other proceeding, you were specifically instructed at the start of your testimony that it was a crime to give materially false statements in that proceeding, correct?
Yes.
And that's the proceeding in which you admitted that there was a tall, dark-haired male who came in the house.
I
Yes
said
or
I-
no? Yes or no? It was that proceeding.
Can you answer that, yes or no?
No, I can't, Your Honor.
Next question, Mr. Jackson.
Loverboy over here lied in front of the court. This is a crime because you take an oath before the proceedings. This lawyer was fully exposing Higgins on multiple fronts. Higgins' testimony is filled with embarrassing moments for the ATF agent. He really is a pathological liar.
You were speaking to Brian Albert in the middle of the night, approximately 3 hours before Mr. O'Keefe's body was found in his yard, correct?
No, that's not correct.
And that was 5 minutes before 2:27 a.m. when there was a Google search for how long to die in the pool, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Then, of course, you lied about that under oath in that prior proceeding by saying, I don't remember this phone call.
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you, in fact, tell the truth at the prior proceeding when you said, I don't remember that phone call?
I always tell the truth.
But I can't cover it all in this video. If you guys want me to make a part 3 about how things ended up with our Loverboy ATF agent, let me know in the comments. And that's all for today. The Karen Reed trial is filled with many crazy characters and stories. If you'd like multiple videos on these hearings, show your support by liking the video and subscribing. Thanks for watching. And just in case you missed part 1, here it is.
You decided on the 29th of January, 17 hours into this investigation, you decided individually, Trooper Proctor, you're not only going to put it on the girl, you decided you're going to make sure this is cut and dried, and the way you're going to do it is to make sure that she's